My name is Ray Barretto. I come from New York. My mother and my father are from Puerto Rico. So I have a very strong connection to that little island that has made much beautiful music for the world. And I am delighted and honored to be here today. We're on the road again. You know, music was my salvation, my spiritual salvation. When I was a little boy, my mother used to go to night school to learn English, to be a better citizen. And I had a little brother and sister, and we lived alone in a little apartment in Harlem, it was known as Barrio. And that's where this big Puerto Rican community was there. And I put the radio on because I didn't want to be alone in the dark by myself. So in the radio at that time, the only music that used to come out of the radio was the big bands, you know, Tommy Dorsey and Glenn Miller and Harry James, and it was a combination of some jazz and American pop music. And then in the daytime, my mother would put on records of the artists in the Latino community that were popular, names that don't have so much meaning today, singers like Daniel Santos and Bobby Capó. And later on, I discovered Machito and his orchestra. He was my first great Latin influence. I thought he had the best Latin band in the world. So music became a very important part of my life, but only because it made me happy, but it wasn't something that I realized I wanted to do as a profession. It was only after I went in the Army, and I went in the Army because I felt a sense of helplessness with my life. So I went to the Army. One night in a jam session for American soldiers, and when I was in the Army was segregated. It was black soldiers and white soldiers. It was, you didn't live together. I saw a banjo, you know, the old banjo, and I took the strings out, and the back of a banjo is like a skin, you know? So I took it and I started to play, making pretend I was like ChanoPozo. But I realized that I was in an environment that was special for me, that it gave me peace, you know, being with music and musicians. So I went back home and I realized that that was going to be my life, devoted to music. My learning was in the streets. I got my first drum, and when I was in New York in those days, there were many clubs that were having sessions every night, jam sessions, especially in Harlem, uptown from 110th Street to 155th Street. There were different clubs, including the famous Minton's, which was the cradle for the new music. There was Connie's Inn, the Lido, Club Paradise, the Apollo Bar. And I was every place, just listening, and then I asked if I could play, and they let me play. And eventually I met people like Charlie Parker, and I met people like Dizzy Gillespie, and I met Roy Haynes and Max Roach, and they were my teachers. Dizzy Gillespie was an extraordinary man. He was full of life. What do you say in French? Joie de vivre, you know? I mean, he was a very warm man, a very friendly man. He never, I was a little boy, I used to follow Dizzy around like a little puppy. For a little boy who loved jazz and who loved Latin music, and to have Dizzy bring the two kinds of music together was a revelation for me. Lou was a bit of a cynic. He had very specific ideas of what he wanted when he played, and he wanted just straight, good, swinging time, no, you know, a lot of drummers used to play a lot of stuff with the left hand and drop bombs with their foot. But she said, just give me the swing. You know, he just wanted the straight groove. He always wanted the groove. So when they called me to play with Lou, I realized that this was a guy that, you know, you just laid the foundation for him. Let him play all he wants to. And, you know, so I just go, and it was just like a walking kind of thing. And Lou was very happy with that, you know. And then sometimes he'd give me a solo. But Lou was another guy who believed very strongly in great rhythm. Charlie Parker it was difficult to get close to him because we looked at him like he was God, you know. It was, you know, and when I played with Charlie Parker, how that came about was that he was playing at a club, the Apollo Bar, and he was late. And a lot of musicians came to see the first night. It was a Tuesday night, and he was going to play for a week. And so the young musicians went up and had a little jam session waiting for Charlie Parker. Finally, they announced, ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Parker is going to play now. So all the young musicians got off the stage. And as I was getting off with my drum, he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "You stay." I asked Charlie Parker one night when I felt more confidence about being able to talk to him and everything. There was a big controversy in those days about there was other musicians like Lenny Tristano and Lee Konitz who had another way to play that wasn't exactly the way Charlie Parker played. And a lot of musicians thought that that wasn't really the right way to play jazz, you know. And I used to like them. I used to love Lee Konitz as an alto player. I thought he was a great player, and he was totally different from Charlie Parker. So I said, you know, hey Bird, you know, what do you think about Lee Konitz and how he plays and everything? And he said he loved it. He says, I was very glad to hear someone that didn't try to sound like me, that had another vision of what he wanted to play, and he respected that very much. So that showed me the kind of mind that he had. He was a very big thinking person. Mongo Santamaria was my first role model. I saw Mongo for the first time, and I realized that I did not know how to play. That Mongo, who was just fresh out of Cuba, was a very strong player. He had a lot of power, and playing with a big band, because the group I was playing with was only 5 people, but he was playing with a band that was 14 people, and you could hear him strong and loud. And I realized that, wow, I have to really get my act together, you know. This is really the way to play, especially in the Latin tradition. Got rhythm, I hope. Rhythm is what makes the world feel good and happy, you know. Rhythm is a form of communication from soul to soul. I didn't think of myself as having any talent. You know, I used to play in my mother's, you know, in the kitchen and the pots and the pans and stop making that noise, you know. And I realized that even though percussion looks to be the easiest thing to play, it's really one of the most difficult. It requires a great physical stamina, you know, but if as you develop a sense of taste and dynamics, you know you can play soft, you can play loud, you can play pretty, you can explore new ways of playing different kinds of rhythms. So I got a deep appreciation for the art of playing percussion. I always try to pitch my drums so that I can create some melodic textures as well as rhythmic textures. And for example, I usually go from the tonic to a minor third to a fourth, and sometimes if I have a high-pitched drum, I'll have the octave of the bottom drum. So I do 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 ti, and I get a little scale. So I do do ti, or do do ti 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 da 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 do da da. I can play little melodies. And sometimes, you know, there's a way of you put your elbow on a skin. I compose by using my frustrated piano technique. I have an idea in my head, and I have a little piano that records, and I go to the piano, and one finger at a time, I pick out the melody, and I pick out what I think is the right harmony, then I play it back, and if it sounds good, then I go to sit with either my pianist or one of the guys in the band, and I say, not my harmonies are not the most profound because, but they fill in the notes, you know, and then we practice it, and if it sounds good, we have a tune, you know. I spent many years in salsa. I had my own band, and that lasted for more than 20 years. We were very productive. It became a a force in the music, you know. It was known throughout the world, and I traveled with my Latin band all over the world. But things change. The public changed, and music changed. And then when the music started to change in its character, when I thought the music was losing its connection to Africa, and Latin music should have a connection to Africa because Africa was the mother of rhythm. And it became more pop, more mellow, less exciting, less dramatic. But what happened for me was that there was always that other door, and that other door was jazz. And that was my first, as a little boy, that was my first exposure to music. And that was the thing that in my heart was always the most important part of me, or at least as important as good Latin music. And I know a lot of Latin band leaders who are now no longer in the business because they couldn't change, or they had no place else to change to. And I said, I'm going back and start New World Spirit and change my philosophy. And why it helped me to survive in both genres is because I knew what I was doing in Latin music. It was part of my culture and part of my heritage. I also know what I'm doing in jazz because that too is part of my culture and part of my heritage. I was raised, again, in my youth, I listened to a young Frank Sinatra, and I'd listen to Nat King Cole, and I listened to people, Dick Haymes, and singing is always the ultimate expression of playing a song is to sing it because you tell the words and you have a beautiful instrument. And every once in a while, in fact, the first record that I did for Blue Note EMI in France was because they heard me sing. And they said, you must sing on the new recording. I said, but I'm not a singer. I have an instrumental band. I have a jazz. So I did one track with the Summertime track, which was very well liked. But I have no more material to sing, so I don't pretend that I'm a singer, you know. It's just something I do for fun, but I love it. Summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping pretty, baby, and the cotton is high. Your daddy's rich, your ma, she's good looking. Hush, pretty baby, don't you cry. Y en Cuba decía, amada prenda querida, no puedo vivir sin verte. Amada prenda querida, corazón, no, 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 no. No puedo vivir sin verte, porque mi fin es quererte y amarte toda la vida. Especially for my friends and my family here in the New Morning. We thank you. Merci beaucoup. You're a wonderful audience. The best, lo mejor. Merci. And now, l'extraordinary talente, Adam Coker, Michael Philip Mossman on trombone, Monsieur Matignon, avec Jairo Moreno and Vince Cherico. Guajira, the blues, the two worlds I love. Thank you. There was a time in the 60s when I think I made more records with more different people than anybody. For whatever reason, I was always called to do recordings. Jazz, Latin, and rock and roll. I did 100 rock and roll things. I recorded with the Bee Gees. I recorded, did a track with the Rolling Stones. I used to do commercials, rock and roll commercials, and that was an important part of my life. I earned my good living doing that, you know. And it was a huge experience for me. It was a great learning experience. I did a track with Weather Report. I did, you know, every once in a while I get called to do some things. Then I used to record with all the big Latin bands, and they asked me to make records with, after I did the Red Garland recording, then and Lou Donaldson, and then there was Wes Montgomery and Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt and Herbie Hancock and Freddie Hubbard, and so boy, my life has been a blessed life, you know. I got the chance to meet a lot of people and play with a lot of people. I think most good leaders must know what it is to be a sideman. And I think that if they could put down that I was a good sideman who became a good leader, that's okay with me. My time of exploring how to make a really great record, that's still there for me to discover. I've been fortunate in that I've made some good records, but I have yet to make that one record that I could say, I did it, I really did it, you know, and I'm waiting to find that out.